We used AI to generate two cat experts and having a talk about the most interesting cat question ever. Do cats really have 9 lives?
If something escapes death over and over, maybe it's not just luck.
Just because something survives doesn't mean it came back from the dead. It only means it got away, just barely.
In a place where stories and science mix, this talk makes us wonder, how many times can something survive before we say it's a miracle? Or maybe we just didn't understand it right. They jump off 5th-floor balconies and just walk away like it's nothing. Is it some kind of magic or just really strong bodies?
Let me put it like this. If a person falls from 20 feet, they're going to the hospital, but a cat? It just shakes it off and walks away like nothing happened. That's not just quick reactions. That's next-level survival. We say it's instinct or biology, but come on. Their bones bend. They move like they know what's coming. It's like they're dodging death. Maybe they don't really have 9 lives, but their bodies sure move like they do. They don't play by the same rules as the rest of us.
Yeah, it looks unreal, but really, it's just nature doing its thing. Cats are like soft, bendy puzzles. Their backs twist in midair, they're light, and they can turn themselves right side up before they land. It's not magic. It's just how their bodies work. When they fall, they spread their legs, slow themselves down, and land in a way that spreads the hit. They don't have extra lives. They just really know how to survive.
Still, that one life must come with some pretty fancy extras. How else do you explain them walking away from falls that should be deadly? And this isn't once. It happens a lot. Dogs, squirrels, none of them have that bounce-back power. We keep saying it's just physics. But if cats evolved this good at falling, doesn't that mean nature kept saving them again and again? It's like the rules of dying keep bending just for them.
Or maybe we just want to believe that because it makes their survival feel more magical. But being tough doesn't mean you can't die. Think of cats as little survival experts, not because they're special, but because their design is super smart. Soft feet, bendy bodies, fast reflexes. Sometimes it's like they know something's about to happen before it even does. What we call a miracle? It's just smart design and thousands of years of practice. Their spines are like slinkies. They bend instead of break.
But here's the thing. If other animals also go by instinct and physics, how come they didn't get this same setup? That's what I don't get. Cats aren't just bendy. They're exact. Like ninjas made of rubber. You know how you drop your phone and it somehow always lands on the screen? That's bad luck. But cats? It's like they argue with gravity and win. That doesn't feel like normal biology. That feels like a body that's made peace with close calls and tells danger. Not today.
You know what that reminds me of? Soldiers who know when to duck before the bullet even comes. They've seen it so much, their minds and bodies just react. Same with cats. For thousands of years, they've been falling, from trees, ledges, whatever. The cats that landed wrong didn't make it. The ones that landed right passed on their skills. So now it just looks like magic. But really? It's evolution doing what it does best.
Maybe. But even if it's all science, it still feels like magic to me. Every time I see a cat twist in the air, it gives me the same feeling I get from a good magic trick. Yeah, I know there's a reason behind it, but that doesn't make it any less amazing. Maybe it's not about having 9 lives. Maybe it's just that they move like creatures who've dodged death so many times, even death got tired of trying. And that kind of confidence, that might be the real magic.
And maybe that's it. It's not about having more lives. It's about how they live the one they've got. They're alert, quick, and sure of themselves. If people knew their own bodies as well as cats use theirs without even thinking, maybe we'd start to feel kind of unstoppable too.
That's a wild way to look at it. So maybe we're not really jealous of the 9 lives. We're just jealous of how well they use the one.
Keep thinking about that, because next, we're going to look at the old stories behind the 9 lives idea. And what we find might change everything you thought you knew. If cats aren't magical, then why do people all over the world think they are? From old god stories to internet jokes, cats have always meant something more than just soft fur and long whiskers. But what happens when stories start to feel more true than real life?
Tell me this. How can people in different parts of the world all believe cats have extra lives? In England, it's 9. In Spain, it's 7. In Turkey, it's 6. That can't be by chance. That's not even made up. It's a pattern. You don't get this kind of thing happening in many places unless there's something strange going on. People treat cats like wise souls who can move between worlds. That's not just fancy talk. That's a sign something real is happening, even if we can't explain it.
Or maybe the fact that the number of lives changes means it's just a story. If cats really had extra lives, wouldn't the number be the same everywhere? The fact that it's different in each place shows that it's just people telling stories. Think about it. Cats are quiet. They leave and come back like nothing happened, and they survive things other animals don't. That's why people make stories about them. The numbers 9, 7, 6 aren't facts. They're just ways to say cats are tough. When we say 9 lives, we really mean this cat got lucky again.
But if it's only a story, why do people talk about cats in such deep ways? We don't do that with dogs. People feel something spiritual with cats. In ancient Egypt, they were gods. In Norse stories, a goddess rides in a cart pulled by cats. Maybe something odd really did happen. A cat falls and walks away, like nothing. A cat comes to a funeral and sits for an hour. That kind of thing makes people wonder. It's more than science. It's like the cat is showing it has some kind of soul.
But that's just how humans work. We don't like randomness. We want things to make sense. If a goat survives something hard, we move on. But if it's a cat, we turn it into a legend. They seem to escape death, but really, it's because they have light bodies and flexible bones. The number 9 also has special meaning in many cultures. It can mean something is perfect or whole. So saying 9 lives isn't about fact, it's about respect. We make myths because cats surprise us, not because they're magic.
But don't you think there's more going on? A cat stares at a corner, like it sees something we don't. It shows up during big life moments, birth, death, heartbreak. It feels like it knows something. People feel seen by cats, not just looked at. Maybe the myth exists not because of science, but because people feel something real around cats. When enough people have the same feeling, maybe that's its own kind of truth.
Exactly. And that's what makes symbols powerful. It doesn't have to be real in the body if it's real in the heart. The myth of 9 lives shows how we feel about cats. They survive. They're strange. They feel different from other animals. But maybe the real reason we believe is because cats act like tiny gods. We want that. We want something quiet, clever, strong, and forever. So we believed the myth. And cats, being proud and calm, never said no. They acted like the legend was true. That's why the story stayed.
Maybe that's it. Cats didn't try to become part of the myth. They just let it happen. They behave like they've lived many lives, and that was enough for us to believe it. But now I ask myself, if myths tell us more about people than cats, what do these stories say about what we want or what we need?
And just when you think these old stories are over, what if the next part shows the cats knew the truth all along? Can a cat be alive and dead at the same time? This is where things get really strange, where science meets the idea of cats never dying.
Let me explain. Schrodinger's cat shows that if you don't look at the cat, it can be both alive and dead at the same time. It's in a mix of both. So maybe, in a way, that cat has more than one life at once. That's kind of like having 9 lives, right? But when you open the box, you force one result to happen, either alive or dead. Could the other version still be out there in another world?
It sounds fun, but that's not right. Schrödinger didn't make the cat story to say the cat is both alive and dead for real. He was showing how crazy quantum physics sounds when we try to apply it to everyday things. The idea wasn't that cats act like particles unless we look at them. It was just to point out how strange quantum stuff is. If the cat gets poison, it dies whether you look or not. It has one life. Quantum talk doesn't give it extra ones.
But doesn't that show that our way of thinking is maybe too small? In this universe, tiny things can be in 2 places at once, and every choice can split into a new reality. So maybe in one world the cat dies, and in another, it lives. That's not just a story. It could be real. Maybe cats don't really die. Maybe they just move to another life, another timeline. Like they're special. Maybe the 9 lives idea is us humans feeling that at some level.
That's not how it actually works. Quantum physics says we don't know what will happen until we check, but when we do, only one thing actually happens for us. The cat doesn't jump into another timeline like in a science fiction movie. It's either alive or dead. Even if other versions of reality do exist, we live in just one of them, and the same goes for cats.
Okay, but what about when a cat falls out of a high window and still walks away? You think that's just normal? Doesn't it ever make you feel like maybe we're seeing something strange? Like maybe, in one version, the cat didn't make it, but we're living in the one where it did. Maybe they can move between these different outcomes. Cats move in weird ways. Why couldn't they slip through cracks in reality better than we can?
That weird feeling, like reality is off. That's just your brain trying to make sense of things without having all the facts. We see patterns where there are none. The cat survives because of its body. Cats evolved to survive those falls. Their balance is amazing and they can twist their bodies to land safely. Science explains that. No need for magic. And that strange, quiet way cats act, it's instinct, not proof of some other world.
But maybe that's why we like to think they're deeper. Cats don't just survive danger. They seem calm right after. Like they know something we don't. It feels like they've been somewhere else. That look they give. Like they've seen things. Maybe having 9 lives doesn't mean dying 9 times. Maybe it means they somehow keep escaping the one death. Schrödinger gave us the idea. And maybe we all feel like that cat in the box. Kind of alive, kind of not. Could that feeling mean something?
Sure, it's a good metaphor. But we shouldn't mix poetry with science. The story was about how strange the idea of measurement is, not magical cats. Still, I get what you mean. The story makes us think about all the chances we have before something becomes final. Maybe that's what 9 lives really mean, believing anything is possible until the moment it isn't. Like we're all many things until someone sees us clearly.
Exactly. So maybe the real question isn't if a cat has 9 lives, but if we are losing versions of ourselves every time we make a choice. Maybe life isn't just about making it through the fall. Maybe it's about every fall we didn't take, and the person we could have been.
And that's just the beginning, because maybe it's not only cats living in many possibilities. Maybe we are too. We all know the internet loves cats. But have you ever wondered why? Is it just because they're cute, or are we seeing something deeper in them?
Cats are everywhere. In movies, books, memes. There are whole brands about these animals that mostly sleep all day and knock stuff off tables. Why? Because we see them as more than just pets. We say they have 9 lives, special powers, and live forever in memes. Garfield's been around since the 70s and still looks the same. That's not just a cartoon. That's modern storytelling, like old myths.
Or maybe it's just smart advertising. Cats are small, expressive, and kind of mysterious, which makes them great for stories. But that doesn't make them magic. Garfield doesn't age because he's drawn that way. The cat in Harry Potter lives because the writer chose it. It's made up. People like how cats look and act, and creators use that. It's not deep. It's just useful.
But doesn't it say something that every generation brings back the cat in new ways? From old temples in Egypt to grumpy cats on TikTok, cats always stay popular. That's not just luck. That means people feel connected to them. We don't do this with squirrels or frogs. Cats mean something. Maybe freedom, mystery, or even death. They keep showing up when we need something to help us make sense of life. Like, why else would a cat in a space helmet go viral?
Sure, we give cats meaning, but that comes from us, not from the cats. They didn't ask to be symbols. We just made them like that. Just like we say owls are wise or lions are royal, that's just humans turning animals into characters. We say cats have 9 lives, but that's just us talking. If that made something real, then Superman would be walking around today.
But maybe it's not about facts. Maybe we use made-up stories to show real feelings. Think about how cats survive floods or car crashes. Then we see a meme of that cat looking proud. It makes us feel something. They don't try to impress anyone. They just live how they want. In a world full of fake stuff, cats feel real. In stories, we need that. We need characters who just want warmth, not praise. A cat on a laptop causing trouble without caring, that kind of thing stays with us.
That's a good point. But maybe that's also what makes cats such good tools in stories, not magic beings. They're simple enough that we can give them any meaning. We say they're loners, but then we put them beside witches. We say they're lazy, but they're internet stars. Maybe cats don't show strength. Maybe we just use them to deal with our own problems. They're not living many lives. We're just putting many of our feelings on one animal.
Okay, but think about this. Cats don't just appear in stories. They play big roles. Salem from Sabrina, the Cheshire Cat, Catwoman. These cats don't just follow. They lead. There's something strong about an animal that doesn't need anyone, but still grabs everyone's attention. That's why cats keep coming back. They feel close and strange at the same time. What could be cooler than that?
You're right. They are great symbols. But don't mix that with something deep or magical. The truth is cats are good at fitting in. That helps them become popular, both in real life and in stories. People use them to share feelings. Saying they live forever because we keep making stories about them doesn't mean they actually do. It just means we're good at writing. Forever isn't about living. It's about staying in people's minds.
Real or not, symbol or feeling, maybe cats don't really have 9 lives. Maybe we just keep giving them new ones. Because we see something in their quiet that reminds us of ourselves. But what if it's more than just imagination? What if every cat story is hiding a message? And maybe the next one will change how we think about what it really means to live. What if the real question isn't whether cats have 9 lives, but whether we really live the one life we have? Let's talk about the difference between just being alive and truly living.
Here's a thought. Maybe cats do have 9 lives, just not like we imagine. They don't rise from the dead, but every time they survive something dangerous, maybe it's like starting fresh, like they begin a new part of their life. Who says life has to be one long, straight line? Maybe it's more like chapters in a book or scenes in a play. Every close call is the end of one part and the start of another.
That sounds nice, but I think you're just being poetic. Life is one journey, from birth to death. You can't hit pause or start over like in a video game. If you survive something tough, you don't get a new life. You just keep going with the same one. Big moments don't make you a new person. You're still you. Maybe wiser, maybe hurt, but still the same person, moving forward on the same road.
But that's the issue. We think of life like walking in a straight line, not like living in a house full of doors. When someone goes through something huge, like a terrible loss or a huge change, they can come out feeling like a totally new person, with new ideas, a new reason to live, sometimes even a new name. Are they really the same person as before? Cats, with all their close calls and sudden moves, show this better than we do. That's why people say they have 9 lives. Not because it's true, but because it shows how we can start over, again and again.
You're talking about different stages in life, not different lives. People change, sure, but it's still the same you going through everything. Moving to a new place or recovering from something bad doesn't mean you were reborn. You grow. You learn. Even if you leave your past behind, it's still a part of you. Saying it's a new life might make you feel better, but if we call every change a new life, then what does life even mean anymore?
Unless we think of life not just as the body being alive, but as all the changes we go through. Think about it. People often say things like, my life before the accident, or my life before I had kids. These aren't just sayings. They show how we think of our lives in different parts. And maybe cats, who seem to bounce back from anything, show us this idea. They live fully, move on quickly, and don't get stuck. Every survival isn't just about not dying, it's about starting again. That's something we don't always notice.
So you're saying big experiences split our life into separate parts like new lives? But if that's true, why don't we grieve when one part ends? We only mourn when someone dies, because that's when everything ends. Life matters because it doesn't last forever. If we pretend we get a new one every time something big happens, we might not take the one we have seriously. We forget this is all we get. One chance, no redo.
Maybe that's the problem. We're too afraid to start over because we think there's only one chance. but cats don't seem scared. They fall, get hurt, then just keep going like nothing happened. They don't carry fear or pride. Maybe that's the true meaning behind the idea of 9 lives. It's not about magic or dying and coming back. It's about giving yourself the freedom to change, to grow, to live many different ways in one lifetime.
Giving yourself permission to change is good. But pretending you can live endless different lives can be harmful. If we think we always get another chance, we might never give ourselves fully to this one. Life isn't a practice round. This is it. We can change roles, we can grow, but the story only ends once.
But maybe the 9 lives idea isn't about fear or science. Maybe it's about freedom. People say cats are just animals. But then why do they make us feel like they get us? It's not about facts. It's about a feeling we can't explain.
Have you ever seen how a cat walks into a room and suddenly the room feels different? It's like the air changes. They're quiet, move so smoothly, but they still have this powerful vibe, like they've been around forever. I'm not saying they really have 9 lives, but maybe that's not the point. Maybe we say that because of how they make us feel. There's something a bit magical about them. Dogs are sweet, horses are strong, but cats, they feel like something more. We don't just like them as pets. We treat them like they're a mystery. That says something, doesn't it?
That feeling is real, but we shouldn't mix that up with magic. Just because something feels special doesn't mean it's something out of this world. We love cats because they're smart, independent, and calm. In a world that's loud and crazy, that kind of calm is powerful. But we don't need to make them into legends. I love cats too. But if we say they have 9 lives just because it makes us feel better, then we're not really seeing them for who they are. That idea doesn't come from them. It comes from us.
But isn't that what people do? We look at stars and see gods. We hear thunder and think someone's talking to us. So of course we see a cat fall off something tall and walk away fine. And we think, wow, they're special. That kind of strength speaks to us. Maybe it's not about what's real. Maybe it's about how they make us feel. Like there's something more to life than just getting by.
You don't need to make things magical to respect them. Real strength should be enough. The problem is we often only care about animals when they act like people. But cats don't do that. They're totally themselves. That's what makes them interesting. They're not trying to please us. We can't fully understand them, and that's what makes us feel like they're mysterious. But just because we don't get them doesn't mean they're magic. It just means they're different. And maybe that's even more amazing.
Yeah, but be honest, haven't you ever had a moment with a cat where you thought, you see something I don't? Like, they just look at you in this deep way when you're sad or sick or lying to yourself. It's not logical, but it's real. People feel like cats understand them. That's why the idea of 9 lives still holds on. It's not about proof. It's about that feeling they give us. Like time stops when they're close.
I get it. And I think that's what makes them special. We don't need them to have magic powers to love them. The idea of 9 lives is more like a symbol. Cats show us how to live in the moment, how to be calm, to just be who we are without trying to change for others. If anything, the sad part is that we think they need to be mysterious to matter. They don't. A cat has 1 life, but the way they live, it makes us think. Maybe we aren't making the most of ours.
Exactly. Maybe the whole 9 lives thing isn't about cats being tough. Maybe it's about us. We want to be like them, calm, confident, not bothered by things. We see them walk away from drama like it's nothing, and we wish we could do the same. So we call them something more, because if they're just normal animals, then maybe we're the ones missing something.
And then, just when we think we're imagining it, a cat jumps off something high, lands easy, and walks off like gravity doesn't exist. So maybe it's not just our feelings. Maybe we're right to think there's more to them. People always talk about how many lives a cat has. But maybe we're asking the wrong thing. Here's a different thought. If cats really have 9 lives, then do kittens get 9 lives for each of their paws?
Think about it. 4 paws, 9 lives each. That's 36 lives in one tiny ball of fluff. That explains a lot. Why they jump off walls like ninjas, run into trouble without fear, climb your furniture, and steal your heart. Kittens aren't just wild and fun. They're like little machines that can't be stopped. And if there's a group of them, you're not just raising pets. You've got a whole team of tiny superheroes. No wonder people are always confused. It actually makes sense.
Or maybe all that silly math says more about us than it does about the cats. Maybe we love making cats sound magical because it helps us forget something hard, that we only get one life. We make jokes about cats having 9 lives, or even 36, but deep down, maybe it's just us wishing we had more time. We don't really think kittens can beat death. We just hope that something soft and small can somehow escape the rules we can't.
But isn't it weird how often cats survive crazy stuff? They fall off balconies, get stuck in car engines, vanish for weeks, and somehow walk back like nothing happened. Sure, you can say it's just biology, but science has laws, and cats seem to bend them. It's like they're not fully part of our world, like they're close enough to cuddle, but far enough that we can't fully understand. So maybe saying they have 36 lives isn't just a joke. Maybe it's our brain's way of trying to explain something we just don't get.
That's not magic, and that's nature doing its job. Cats didn't beat the system. They worked with it. They fall slowly, move fast, twist midair. All these body skills help keep them alive. The 9 lives stuff is our way of giving up and saying, I don't get it. But we miss something important when we do that. If kittens had 36 lives, they wouldn't care about danger. But they do. They get scared. They test things. They learn. They don't live forever. They just live fast. They remind us that life is short, even for them.
Still, have you noticed how cats always seem a bit ahead of everything? You walk into a room and the kitten's already on the top shelf. They disappear and show up later like they've been to another world. And when they stare at you, like really stare, it feels like they know something more than we do. So don't tell me they only have one life. Because when you see one fly through the air like gravity doesn't exist, it really feels like there's something magical about them. Maybe they do have 36 lives, maybe even more.
Or maybe what makes them special isn't having more lives. Maybe it's how well they use the one they have. They don't hold back. They take chances, move with confidence, live every second like it's huge. Maybe that's what makes them seem like magic. Not having extra chances by just making the most of the one they got. And watching that makes you wonder, are we wasting ours by trying to be too safe?
That hits hard. Now I can't stop thinking. What if kittens are using all their 9 lives at once, while we're barely using just a little bit of ours?
Think about that. Maybe the story of a cat's 9 lives isn't really about cats. Maybe it's about us, and how we're too scared to see it.